Cyril here is distinguishing between a prosopon and between hypostasis. They are not the same.
So guys, do you see that? Saint Cyril of Alexandria doesn't define prosopon to mean hypostasis. Did you guys catch it? Saint Cyril of Alexandria is defining prosopon differently from the word hypostasis. So prosopon does not mean hypostasis in Saint Cyril's theology.
Not only him, most fathers, especially like the Greek fathers, because they were like the, let's say, philosophers of the church, they all made a distinction between prosopon and hypostasis. I would like go through Saint Basil right now.
Yes, good. So but remember, the biggest name you have here so far, because he's a saint for the Catholic, is Saint Cyril of Alexandria. So I want to hammer you. Basil.
Saint Basil is too.
Yeah, Saint Basil, Saint Gregory, all of them, most of them.
Oh yeah, the Cappadocian fathers. Okay, go ahead.
So he said,
the persons as being without hypostasis, but in persons here again being prosopa. The prosopa as being without hypostasis. But if they concede that the prosopa exists in real hypostasis, as they acknowledge, so then again, the purpose of the quote is to show the viewer the distinction between the words. They are not using them as synonyms or interchangeably.
Exactly, and there is a reason for that, because the Sabellians, modalists, used to confess three prosopa, three persons, but one hypostasis for the Trinity, and because of that, they were accused of saying that God sometimes showed himself as Father and sometimes as Son and sometimes as Holy Spirit, because none of them had a real, let's say, independent existence. None of them were truly individuals.
Okay.
And that's what the fathers were fighting against.
Saint Basil the Great he's attacking heretics, and he's defining the term prosopon differently from hypostasis. Are you catching it? Now, for those of you who don't know church history, not only Saint Cyril of Alexandria, Saint Basil the Great and the two Gregories are considered some of the greatest Trinitarian apologists and defenders of the Trinity that ever existed. They're called the Cappadocian Fathers. Yes. So Saint Basil the Great is a saint for the Eastern Orthodox, the Catholic, as well as the Oriental Orthodox, right? You guys, of course, he's a saint. He's a huge name, guys. And look what they're showing you, that he does not define the word hypostasis as prosopon. Prosopon means person. Hypostasis doesn't mean that. He's defining them differently. So if someone comes and says, well, when they said, one hypostasis, and they meant, no, here you're seeing to them, prosopon means person, but hypostasis doesn't mean person. So there you go. Come on.
And then the last quote, which again from Saint Basil.
We must confess each prosopon to have a substantial existence in real hypostasis.
There you go again. Now, each prosopon, he's referring to the Trinity, correct?
Yes.
Prosopon. Okay, so notice for Basil, the Father is a prosopon, the Son is a prosopon, the Holy Spirit is a prosopon, what we would say persons, but they have one hypostasis.
That each person, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, have their own hypostasis,
and they have one essence.
Yes, one essence.
Yes, no, because if they each have their own hypostases, then that means there are three separate hypostases. But the quote you're reading, so that's why I said what I said, because you're going to confuse us here. We must confess each person to have a substantial existence in real hypostases. You didn't say their own hypostasis, because the hypostases would be common to all three, right?
The ousia would be common to all three. So what he's
then
saying
what does it mean? Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. That's what. See, I got confused the hell out of myself. Okay, calm down, buddy. So you can smack me later. Okay, now I see. Sorry, because I got carried away. I'm defining hypostasis as essence. See, that's why. Okay, let me correct my stupidity. Now, see, that's why. Because when you say three persons, I'm thinking three persons, one nature. No. All right, now. So now let me correct myself on the spot. This was beautiful. You're here to correct me, so I can see. I'm learning too. Each of them is a prosopon, and each of them have their own real hypostasis, because hypostasis here does not mean nature. See, that's where I forgot because I'm
And
stupid.
doesn't mean person. Doesn't mean nature and doesn't.
Yes, they're
That
all
means
distinct from each other.
they are a particular example of the divine nature. So the Father is a person and an instantiation. So if I were to use the technical term, he's a prosopon and a hypostasis.
Yes.
Right? The Son is another prosopon and hypostasis. The Holy Spirit is another prosopon and hypostasis, because hypostasis doesn't mean nature. It means that these are three examples, instances of the divine nature, and each of them are a prosopon. So are you seeing prosopon is what refers to a person, hypostasis refers to a particular example of a nature. So go ahead. Now I got it. All right, sorry, buddy.
No problem. So what's the relation between prosopon and hypostasis then? So this is a post-schism father. So like Saint Severus is a heretic for the Chalcedonians, but I'm using him to show what we believe in and why we use the language we use, which is based on Saint Cyril.
We call him Tagit Surai, like one of the Assyrians. We call him.
So Saint Severus says, first he's explaining what self-subsisting hypostases are. So he says, when hypostases subsist by individual subsistence, as for instance those of Peter and Paul, whom the authority of the apostleship united, then there will be a union of persons and brotherly association, not a natural junction of one hypostasis made up out of two that is free from confusion. So what he's saying is that when hypostases can subsist by their own, they have their own personhood, their own identities, personalities. And so when these hypostases unite, which have their own prosopa, persons, the union is not a natural one. It's not a union in nature or hypostasis, but a union between persons like St. Paul and Peter. And then he explains what non-self-subsisting hypostases are.
Oh boy.
So he says, but when hypostases do not subsist in individual subsistence, as also in the case of the man among us, I mean him who is composed of soul and body, but are without confusion recognized in union and composition, being distinguished by the intellect only and displaying one hypostasis made out of two. Such a union none will be so uninstructed as to call one of persons. So he's saying, when we look at, for instance, a man, he is composed of two hypostases, which I will be showing from earlier fathers even. When he's composed of two hypostases, because these two hypostases do not exist on their own, like
they're unified in the person.
Sorry,
because they're unified in the person.
They're unified. They've always existed as one. When someone is conceived, like conception, they exist always as one, and so the person is attributed to that one hypostasis, which is made of two.
Okay.
Let me see.
The two that make the person are the soul and the body.
Yes, right.
Together.
Yeah. Okay. Now, just so you
are made of two.
Yeah, you speak a little too fast, Maggot. But let's slow it down.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll come back. Okay. So we can all follow you, buddy. I don't know. It's like you're rushing to go to dinner. You'll get to dinner, man. Don't.
No. It's late. That's why.
Okay. So we can listen, because this man is brilliant and he's speaking on a level that's going to take us 50 years to go to Oxford Philosophy School to figure out. So let me figure out what he's saying here. When hypostases do not subsist in individual subsistence, as also in the case of the man among us, I mean him who is composed of soul and body, but are without confusion, recognized in union and composition. All right, I'm going to explain that in a minute. I just want to see what he meant by two, being distinguished by the intellect only and displaying one hypostasis made out of two. Okay. Such union will be so uninstructed as to call one of persons. All right, so the hypostasis of this man, meaning this man is an instantiation of human nature. But to be a hypostasis of human nature means you have to be composed of two parts, body and soul.
Yes.
So that's why I'm trying to help people, because people are like me. We're trying to figure it out. So understand what this quote from this brilliant theologian, who would make William Lane Craig look like a kindergarten idiot. Anyway, so you understand what he's saying is, if you are a hypostasis of human nature, a pneuma of human nature. To be a hypostasis of human nature, there has to be two parts to you, body and soul. Body and soul, because you can't be human if you don't have a body, and if you don't have a soul that's united. So it's saying that the hypostasis of the man is composed of the two, body and soul. So you guys with me?
Themselves hypostases,
Say it again.
which themselves are hypostases. Like
So that was the other element. So to him, not only is the hypostasis and sanctification of a man realized in the union of the body soul, but you can speak of the body as a hypostasis of human nature and the soul as a hypostasis of the human nature.
Yes, and that's why
you guys see how technical this is. Now these guys think we're going to figure it out in the next 50 years. But you see how technical it got? Okay, so now what he's saying is that you can even speak of the human body as a hypostasis and the human soul as another hypostasis, but they become one in the man. Is that what the quote is?
Yeah, and that not like each hypostasis does not have its own person. So the unity isn't between persons, but between hypostases.
Which is beautiful, because that's one of the objections level. Okay, now the soul and the body have the same person. It's the same person that has the soul and the body. So the body is not a separate person, and the soul is not a separate person. So they're not two persons, they're one person, parsopa. So two hypostases, a body and a soul, but they're united in the man, and both of them have only one person, parsopa. They don't
and one hypostasis.
Say it again.
And one hypostasis even. So both of them compose one hypostasis. And
so
one
that's
person.
after the union, right?
Yeah, exactly. Even like they don't exist separately before, because when we are conceived, it's like one. But we can conceive of them as being two in the mind, and they become two in reality when death happens. I will illustrate.
That's what I was going to say. When you die, then what? Then there are two hypostases?
Yes, they separate and become.
The union is dissolved at death.
Yes.
Okay. So now let me ask a question as you continue. So at death, the union is dissolved. So that body, that's a human hypostasis, returns. But the human soul, it's still united to the parsopa, because obviously we don't believe in cessation of existence after death, right?
Yeah. So the prosopon is located in the hypostasis. So when you die, your body is in the grave, decomposing. Meanwhile, your soul goes up to paradise with your consciousness, with your personality, and so on.
Well, the parsopa goes to heaven as a human soul.
Yes.
But the human body is being dissolved until the resurrection.
Yes.
Okay. Now I hope you guys got it. I hope you go back and rewind this, and hope you guys got it, because this is so technical with these fathers. That's why it makes us look like kindergarten girls. But go ahead.
So he says then, though the hypostasis of God the Word existed before, or rather was before all ages and times, being eternally with God, both the Father and the Holy Spirit, yet still the flesh possessing an intelligent soul, which he united to him, did not exist before the union with him. So he's saying that the human hypostasis, which he assumed, because it has to be a hypostasis, and I will explain why later on, it was not separate, or it did not exist before its union, nor was a distinct person assigned to it. Okay. And that's because it did not exist before its union with it. So there is no like Jesus walking around before and then God united with him. No.
That's adoptionism.
Yeah, exactly. So it started to exist the moment God became man.
Okay, let's break this down for all of my friends. My friends, let's break this down. I love what he said here. He says, the Word is uncreated, no beginning, almighty, with the Father and the Son. That's your Trinity. Notice the quote. Though the hypostasis, or like he says it, hypostasis. I say hypostasis. You say tomato, I say tomato. It doesn't matter. The hypostasis of God, the Word. So this instantiation of the divine nature that we call the Word. Notice he's eternal, uncreated. Existed before, or rather was before all ages and times. He has no beginning. Being eternally with God, both the Father and the Holy Spirit. Now it's saying this Word, right? Yet still the flesh possessing an intelligent soul. So I'm assuming that he believes that to be Human, you have to have an intelligent, rational soul, right?
So
This is
could you
his
repeat that? Sorry.
anthropology, right?
Could you just review that? Sorry, I didn't hear that part.
So when he says the flesh possessing an intelligent soul, so
Yes.
I'm assuming that in their anthropology,
Mhm.
to be human, you have to have a rational soul.
Yes.
Okay, but what he's not saying is that this rational soul exists as a separate consciousness from the word, right?
Yes.
Because the rational soul, what is it?
It doesn't exist as its own person
Yeah.
outside of the union.
Okay, so this rational soul is not a person. It is the word who, as a person, unites to himself this human soul. So it's the person of the word who now unites to himself this rational soul, because the rational soul without the word would not be a person.
Yes.
Okay. I hope you guys figure it out, man. I pray for you
So
guys.
this is the relation between prosopon and hypostasis. So again, there is a wrong wrong definition that the Chalcedonians did, which is that nature equals ousia or essence, which is also wrong and problematic when you read Saint Cyril.
Boy.
Nature can either mean hypostasis or ousia. So here is a quote again by Saint Severus. He's not authoritative for the Chalcedonians, but he is good to explain how at least the Oriental Orthodox views these terms. And again, we can prove them from Saint Cyril and other fathers. But he says, enough has, I think, been said about essence and hypostasis, because like in the previous letters, he explained what these terms are. But the name nature is sometimes taken in the place of essence, sometimes in place of hypostasis. For even the whole of mankind we call comprehensively nature, as it is indeed written, for all natures of beasts and of birds and of reptiles and of things that are in the water are subjected and are made subject to human nature. And again, we speak of one nature in reference to a single man, Paul, for example, or Peter, or maybe James. Where therefore we name all mankind one nature, we use the name nature generically in place of essence. But where we say there is one nature of Paul, the name nature is employed in place of individual hypostasis. So what he's saying is,
it's going to be synonymous, huh?
yeah. So what he's saying is, when I speak of something individual, Christ, or Paul, or Peter, or Sam, or Daniel, when I say you have one nature, it means you have one hypostasis. When I speak of two or more, for instance, Peter and Paul, I'm speaking about the general designation of something that they have in common. And then the name of nature here is taken in the place of ousia or essence.
Yeah, so just to clarify, because I had it in my mind, but the way you articulated, you confused me more. So let me break this down. Yeah, because I had it, but then you spoke and you blew it away. But anyway, let's come back. Let's figure this out. So the people can understand this quote. In the quote, we are told, I told you guys it's going to get complicated. This is why we're going to go slow. Where we're going, I'll probably be 70 years old when we're done with the series. But let's pay attention to what the source is saying. If you're not catching it, if you read the first part, it says, by the name nature. Nature is sometimes taken in place of essence. So it means that at times we're going to use this term nature to mean essence. And at other times, we're going to use the word nature to mean hypostasis. So this is why there's going to be so much confusion in the debates. Because at one time, you can use nature to have the same meaning as essence. But then another time, you can use the word nature to mean hypostasis. So when do you know that nature has the same meaning as hypostasis? And when it's different? Okay, well, he goes on to say, here, let me read. For even the whole mankind we call comprehensive nature. So we can refer to the nature of all of mankind. That's right. All mankind, we can speak of their nature collectively. So there it's referring to the nature of man. So there it doesn't mean hypostasis. There it doesn't mean all mankind is one hypostasis or hypostasis. All right. For all natures of beasts and of birds and of reptiles and of things that are in the water are subjected and are made subject to human nature. That was my confusion earlier when with the Trinity. Remember, I was defining hypostasis as nature. Well, it turns out you can define it that way now. So you've confused me even more. But anyway, for all natures of beasts and of birds and of reptiles and of things that are in the water, subjected and are made subject to human nature. Okay, see, now notice here, human nature is being used for all humans